is Maritime Connection?
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome on. Welcome all. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our wonderful producer for tonight is Mr. Sensational himself, Mr. Craig Gibson. We are coming to you live via Love 97 FM in Nassau, Bahamas. This is Tuesday, the 22nd day of July, 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, it's maritime. Tick, 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 tick. Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tune in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you're trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for the night show, same too. Boy, we get one coming on board, and that push us a little further on with all our goings on, eh? But we got Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. We provide a full slave maritime services, and of course, we got 101 Pharmacy, based here in Nassau on East Street, and what the highway name out there? Mr. Sanders, that's Charles Sanders Highway, in the Island Lock Building. And of course, we got Island Care Pharmacy, located downtown Freeport. I say good night, Auntie May. Auntie May, you know, is our number one fan up there in Freeport. Boy, that's my good old Auntie May. She's 92 years and going strong, people. Strong. You're listening to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. And of course, tonight, we have a loaded gun for you. A lot of maritime stuff going on, and we got a lot to say about a lot of this maritime stuff that's going on. So tonight we engage various recent maritime hot topics. Don't know how far we can reach, boy, but we can see what we can do. The big one is all cruise ships have been mandated to take a Bahamian marine pilot for all stops in the Bahamas. You see, the cruise ship is getting away for a long time. I've been preaching this now for 2.5 years. They've been getting away by not taking pilot, not paying that money that could go into our revenue, that could take care of the family of the pilots, the family of the people driving the pilot boats, the family of the people maintaining the pilot boats. The cruise ship's keeping everything, because they're allowing their captain to just pilot the ship in and out. And we were allowing that for so many years. But it is coming to a stop. And that's in the areas where the private islands have cruise ship facilities. And of course, Carnival coming on stream now on mainland Grand Bahama. We know Disney came on stream on mainland Eleuthera. So, no. This is too much. A stop was made. And don't fool yourself. This stop was not made by flicking a switch and the cruise ship saying, okay, we got you. You want us to take pilots now? No. There's a big fight going on. This was negotiation for months. On top of negotiations, because believe me, the cruise ships did not want this to happen. Why? Why would the cruise ships not want to abide with our law that says any ship coming to a harbor or port in this country over 30 gross tons, and 30 gross registered tonnage back in those days. That's a little small, but we ain't worrying with them the small set, we worrying with the big set now. But the cruise ships is taking advantage of that and bringing their own ship in as they wish. Okay, so we had enough of that. The cruise ship has agreed, and they don't mean like they have much choice, right? But when you making a seismic shift, a paradigm shift of this magnitude, you know what this means now to this country? This means that we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 18, 20, must be about 30 new jobs that we should have always had. But our authorities, for how many decades? 2, 3 decades? Did not see it fit. Oh, I shouldn't say didn't see it fit. They probably was unaware. I'll leave it as they were unaware. Nobody was bringing it to their attention. But Maritime Matters. Don't sleep on these kind of things. And from day one, Maritime Matters was telling the world and the Bahamas and the politicians and the heads of departments, particularly for immigration, for port department, and for Bahamas Maritime Authority. We were telling them all along, we got to fix these things. And this one, I can tell you, this is perhaps the biggest, no, this ain't the biggest, the second biggest. Excuse me. The biggest is to get the Bahamas Maritime Authority, and some people getting on the case with these Russian ships. I don't know who owned the ships, whether they're Russian or not. But the Bahamas Maritime Authority has an obligation to ensure that every vessel that are not solus, which means anything under 500 gross tons, are required to carry a local safety certificate based on surveying that vessel. That has yet to happen. And when that happens, that'll be the biggest one, right? Because you know how much jobs that's going to bring about? Anyway, let's stick with our agenda for the night. Our agenda for the night is these pilots now. We got to find, and I can tell you the number in a minute, a whole heap of pilots. Because we're now getting a whole heap of pilot jobs that we never had before. And who made this happen? My good friend. And, sometimes I talk bad with my boy. Well, not bad, but, I say a little slack, right? But boy, I was advised. See, I ain't been in the room. But I know a couple different sets of people who've been in the room. And they all advised me of the same thing. That my good friend, Mr. Brian Wright, the port controller, basically stood his ground and stood up to the FCCA. What's the FCCA? The Florida Caribbean Cruise Association. Michelle Page and the rest of them. They usually go around the Caribbean manipulating countries to try to make sure cruise ships don't spend any money in those countries. But my good friend, Brian Wright, stood up and told them, not on my watch. And so kudos to you. Senior Commander Brian Wright from the Royal Bahamas Defense was now sitting in, well, he's acting port control. I think he may be port controller now, I don't know. But he's seconded to the port department. And I know he's been catching a lot of licks. But I watch him. And we monitor each other. And I am pleased and proud to say today that Brian Wright, when his legacy is written, he will be the catalyst that caused this seismic shift, this paradigm shift with piloting in the Bahamas, to cause cruise ships to now, on a mandatory basis, take pilots going anywhere in this country, even if they're going on Anchorage. And the question arises, with that big task, because you don't let's have pilots turn up overnight. It takes years for somebody to become a professional pilot. So the big question is now, do we have the resources to make this happen in 6 weeks? Well, we're down to 5 now, eh? Well, maybe still 6, I don't know. But the 1st of September 2025, the cruise ships will have no choice but to take on a beam or don't come to these ports. Boy, look at that, so huge. You know, my hero in Maritime was one of my 4 heroes from I started this show, was Mr. Leon Flowers, because of the things that he did while he was port controller. He basically shook hands with Carnival, and when they had those fun ships, he accommodated them every which way he could, and eventually Carnival just grew as he facilitated them. Other ships came along, they grew, and people wondered why he had so much power. He had so much power because from day one, he held the hands of Mr. Mickey Harrison, the owner of Carnival, and they became personal friends. And so he had the authority to call Mr. Harrison and tell him, I am sending Captain Glenbean and his family, please give them a 2-week cruise. Everything on the house. You don't think that's clout? But he wasn't able to do that only because of who he was. It's because of what he did and the relationships he formed with Mr. Harrison. So here it is now, Brian Wright. Senior Commander Brian Wright. Y'all can say what y'all want to say, but my boy, this one caused me to give him a different level of respect. Why? Because now we got about 30 or 40 families that will be eating from this decision, from this mandate, from this journey. You cannot leave out the Minister of Transport. I don't know you all giving Miss Jobette Colby Davis plenty licks. And I don't care about none of that, because ain't none of that happen to do with Maritime, right? This here is what I'm talking about. This would not happen. Brian Wright couldn't make this happen without the minister's approval and the cabinet's approval. So we got to give the brave Davis administration kudos for making this happen, because we could have gone into another 20, 30 years and it didn't happen. They made it happen. And I don't know if it's because Maritime Matters was trashing it out and making it seem like they don't care. And I don't care if that's real. The reality is it happened. And I can no longer call it out as a problem that the government is not addressing or the Bahamas is not addressing. And you know, when I speak with government, I'm not speaking about any particular administration. Now when they do something like this, I got to speak about which administration did. I'll never forget it. And many, many pilots today will never forget this, because we could not see this coming. But it's now here. And since it's here, we have to embrace it, and we have to make sure this country, have to make sure that those cruise ships have no reason to complain from the perspective of having professional pilots to assist in this venture. Professional pilots to show up and be on board their ships when it's time for their ships to come in. And I don't want you to fool yourself thinking, well, if they don't have the pilot, the ship can't come. Well, technically, the ship shouldn't come in. But I want you to know, my Bahamian brothers and sisters, that for the past umpteen years, these cruise ships were being piloted by the captains on board and the staff captains on board and the safety officers on board. They were not using pilots to go to their private islands. So they are highly capable, because you never hear but none of them run aground, eh? But you know what? Don't feel bad now, because why we want to make them take a pilot if they could bring their own ship? Because it's commerce. Because I could guarantee you that every single one of those ships on the way back to Miami, or Port Everglades, or Port Canaveral, they are capable of taking their ships all the way into the dock when they get back to Miami, when they get back to Port Everglades, when they get back to Port Canaveral, when they get back to Tampa. But you let them try it. They will not dare take their own ship. Mind you, they could be the ones piloting the ships anyhow, but they must have a pilot on board. Why? If they don't need a pilot, why he got to be on board? Because they got to pay for piloting. That's why. This is commerce. Yes, they come to our country and make up a bunch of money. And most of it they carry with them. But this bunch of money they was holding out from us. Senior Commander Brian Wright, Minister Jobeth Kobe Davis, the Davis administration cabinet caused that money to now remain among us. So you think that ain't no big deal? That's your business. You think that happened by chance? That's your business. Because this was going on for decades and it wasn't we were not getting anything out of it. So we got to make sure that we set this thing up properly. We make this thing happen. So the 1st of September, that's 5-6 weeks from now, the money should start paying out to us. We will need pilots for Coco Key, at least one, to each one of these locations. Coco Key, Half Moon Key, that used to be Little San Salvador up there between Luther and Cat Island. Half Moon Key, Princess Key, that's right, on Loutre, basically. The ship that's anchored out, because they ain't got no dock. But they need a pilot. I don't give their anchor or get dock. The mandate is you need a pilot if you can stop in this country. Not if you anchor or if you can go to the dock. No. If you are going to be entering any of our ports, you need a pilot on board your ship, and you got to pay that pilot and everything else that comes along with it. Great Stirrup Key, right there on the Berry Islands, just like Coco Key. Excuse me. Coco Key used to be Little Stirrup Key. And in the infinite wisdom of RCCL, they changed it to Coco Key. Now we got Great Stirrup Key, and I don't know how come NCL ain't changed it yet, or ain't look like they want to change it. They must be happy with Stirrup Key, right? So Stirrup Key anchors the ship off right now, but they're building a dock. I understand the dock has been started, where 2 ships will be able to go in there, so they can increase the volume, right? But every time a ship got to go in or come out of there, they need a pilot on board so they can spend some of that money and leave it here in this country with us. That's why we could train more people to be pilots. We could have more jobs. We could train more people to drive pilot boats. We could train more people we'll have more boats, more pilot boats to be repaired, to be maintained, parts, everything. Everybody wins. Okay? The cruise ship don't take all the money with them no more. That's the bottom line. And then, of course, we get Castaway Key. Castaway Key used to be Gorda Key. Well, I used to go there many times, right? When I was on the fence force, that's the key where plenty drugs came in back in the early 80s. So they're now Castaway Keys. Very beautiful, spanking, nice key. But guess what? Every day they got a cruise ship going there which belongs to Disney. And if they don't go 7 days a week, they go 6 days. Because they are well established. But every time they go, they take their own ship in. So now they are required to get a pilot on board to bring them in and get a pilot on board to take them out and pay that money and leave it with us. You ain't keeping that in your kitty no more. Ocean Key. Now, I don't know how come MSC ain't changed that name yet either. But they probably like Ocean Key because it's right on the ocean, eh? Ocean Key right in the Bimini chains. Now, when they first started, they were using pilots, But because there was no mandate, although it's in our law books, there was no mandate for them to have to take a pilot. Hey, somebody figure, well, man, let's save this money. Ain't taking no pilot. And for the past couple of years, I don't think they was taking pilots. But guess what? Come September 1st, them sorry suffers can't duck out. They will have to take pilot. We will get some money. Because that's why we need pilots. That's why we are pilots. Because we here to provide a professional service. And our commerce say you ain't supposed to take all the money back out with you. Just like Miami, just like Port Everglades, just like Port Canaveral, just like Tampa Ports. You know how much people could bring their own ship. I remember I used to be on a container ship. It used to name Tropic Day, but when we had it named Freeport Flyer. It used to go all the way up to Jacksonville. In fact, north of Jacksonville. You know, we ain't much north of Jacksonville, but there was this port called Fernandina Beach. And Captain Vimal Black, he could attest to this, right? Because he really used to do that run. When he got to take vacation or he going to do some training or whatever, I would have to take the ship in his absence. So I went up there quite a few times, right? And Fernandina Beach, when you get up there, of course, you already almost in, but the pilot comes out. And he comes on board. Well, of course, he gave me a cup of coffee. And he sit down after saying, "Good morning, Captain Dane. How are you? Yeah, was it bumpy coming up? Yada, yada, yada." I said, "Well, pilot, it was a little bumpy last week, but this time it wasn't so bad." We just go there every Friday night, right? And he'll sit in the captain's chair on the bridge and have nothing to say because I know how to go in and I know how to come out. I will maneuver that ship around all the shallow waters, turn it upside down, put it on the dock, and he shake my hand and leave because he money there. It was a commerce exercise. He came on board because the requirement is that if your ship is more than 7 foot draft and you're coming in the U.S. waters, you must take a pilot. And there is tension on that. They ain't care how good you can handle your ship. They ain't care how good you know the area. You will take a pilot because you got to pay the Americans. You got to leave some of that money there for them. And so the fact that the Bahamas is only catching up with what should have been in place a long time ago is a big deal, especially in maritime for this country today. So we got Ocean Keep, we got Resort World Bimini. Now Resort World Bimini was playing by the rules. And I ain't kind of biased for them because I know I just go up there and help them with some stuff. They were playing by the rules because I know the pilots who used to come there to bring the ships in at Resort World. So that ain't give me no big shift, right? They've been doing that all along, so that ain't no problem for them. They ain't got no money to lose, or not to lose, but they was leaving the money with them. He's getting some money out of them, right? So that could stay. Lighthouse Point, brand new, spanking new Lighthouse Point on the southeastern section of Eleuthera. Disney taking their own ships all the time because they don't want to pay for nobody else to take. They know how to do it, but that got to change. Great Disney, that got to change. We want some of that money too. So, please, come September 1st, and you agreed, kick back from these cruise ships, because they know they're getting away for all these years. So now they realize you got to pay the piper now. And it's time for us to win. Then we got, of course, brand spanking new celebration key. Just started. Was it this week or last week? Just started. But they're bringing their own ships in until September 1st because they know how to do it. But we can do it too. And let us sit on your ship while you maneuver it in so we could make that money. What all them set in America just make, what all them set in Britain just make, what all them set all over Europe just make, what all them set in China, Singapore, Japan, you name it. They know they can't take their ships in those ports without a pilot. But they take advantage of us in the Caribbean because we ain't supposed to know no better. But anyway, they agreed. The deal is sealed. It's only up to us, the people of this country, the professional pilots of this country, the Minister of Transport and the Cabinet for this country, the Port Controller and the Port Authority Board for this country. It's up to us as a team to make this happen, to make sure this happens the way it's supposed to happen. And I say that with no hesitation of saying, I hear a bunch of foolishness already. You got some greedy people out there. Some people with no real substance. All they want to do is see how much money they can make. They don't care if everybody make money. No, they want me to decide to make up all the money. Bunch of foolishness. Just greedy. And I don't know if I call it corruption, I call it greed. Well, there's a degree of corruption as well. But the good thing about this is you don't give yourself license to do this work. You have to get that license through the Port Department, from the Ministry of Transport, with the minister's signature. And of course, recommendations. And we can talk about the law. You see, I only got an hour and a half. And look like I have almost gone. And I ain't getting started yet. All I can tell you is we can need 3 shows for this one. Because we got to make sure this go right. And I ain't looking for nobody to call. So if you call, that's fine with me. I can answer you now. But boy, if y'all don't call, I'll be happy. That's how much information I have here to talk about tonight. Now, again, Cocoa Key, Half Moon Key, Princess Key, Great Stirrup Key, Castaway Key, Ocean Key, Royal, not Royal, what else? Resort World, Bimini, Lighthouse Point, Celebration. 9 stations that are mandated to start taking pilots on the 1st of September. And out of those 9, we got only 1. So we'll have 8 additional stations that were not taking pilots and not paying for pilotage. And that's what we got to fix. Because those 9 stations, when you look at it, they're going to need at least 18 pilots. I mean, if you want a rotation that will be consistent with pilots working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks on, off, 1 week on, 1 week off, or however you want to do it, but the pilot need time off, Can't be on them key forever. The pilot boats, a very similar situation. They can need time off too. The crew of those boats, they got family home. They can't live on them key forever. And I imagine that you'll be doing 2 weekly rotations or 1 weekly rotation. I don't know. However, it is established between now and September 1st. It's fine. But how many pilots do we have available as we speak to take on this mantle, to take on this big job, this seismic shift in marine pilotage in the Bahamas? Well, we already have some independent pilots that were doing the anchorage. Any ship coming to Freeport, they need to go on anchorage just outside of Freeport Harbor. They were also doing Resort World Bimini. And right now they have, as I've been advised, 8 pilots, right? And those 8 pilots, based on the structure that has been considered so far, would continue to do the pilotage. They would continue to do Resort World on a daily basis, ships coming in and out of there. They will now start to do Ocean Key as well. And they will also be doing Celebration Key. So that's a tall order. Because you're talking about 4 locations. And they only have 8 pilots. But that's like okay. That's like okay, right? Because you could always have 4 on while 4 off. And that's kind of what you want. Now when it's time for someone to take vacation, you probably can need a couple more. You need 1 or 2 to slip in there to keep that rotation functional. So they have 8. And they got those 4 areas covered. Now, Freeport Harbor Company. You see, in our country, there were only 2 ports that had mandate for pilotage. Those 2 ports are the port of Nassau and the port of Grand Bahama or Freeport, right? So any ship coming in and out of Nassau, whether it be Clifton Pier, whether it be Arwa Key, Prince George Wharf, those ships would have to take pilots. So we have a system of piloting where in Nassau we have up to 8 licensed pilots. And the only other outside of that Anchorage that we just talked about, that just recently came around, right? Area in the Bahamas that have a piloted system would be Freeport Harbor. Well, I would include Barco in that, right? Freeport Harbor would have a system where people are trained to become pilots. And once they fully clear, they be pilots. And then, of course, Barco or Buckeye would be the other entity that have people they send off to school, or once you come back from school with qualification, take you on as a pilot, you be a pilot apprentice for a while, and eventually you become fully cleared, right? So those are the three areas that had like piloted system. And then, as I said earlier, this 8 pilots for the independent pilots for Grand Bahama, they would be an additional system. So it's like 4 systems we had. Now we need a system for this venture to take on these private islands that are not in the loop of pilotage. And included in that would be Celebration Key and Lighthouse Point, which are on the mainland, right? So we say the independent pilots have 8, Freeport Harbor Company, they have 5. Well, they could provide about 5. They have 10 professional pilots around this time, about 10. And then they got a couple of apprentices, maybe 3, 4 apprentices. So from those 10, we're going to need about half of them. Because we're going to need pilots who are trained pilots to go on board ships and take them into those. Because just because we going on board as pilots don't mean we can sit back and don't know how to take it. We have to know how to take those ships in. And I believe those captains can test us anyhow. We've been doing it all along, but since we get paid them, let them do it. And you should be able to do it. Because it ain't no big deal. It ain't like getting Freeport or Nassau Harbor. That's for sure. Because most of these docks, they're not inside a harbor or protected harbor. Except maybe, and to some extent, Castaway Key is protected. All the rest are basically just abutments coming off from the land, right? So ain't no big deal with that. Should be able to handle that. And then, of course, Buckeye has some in the range of 6 pilots that are experienced and should be able to come and join this system. But of course, it's a slippery slope because you don't want to take the pilots from Barco and cause Barco to keep their thing going. So maybe you could use like half, because Barco ain't that busy. Barco only get them big tankers coming in, and they come in every now and then. Sometimes you have 2 a day, or so you could use 3 pilots in the system to take care of that, and maybe 1 or 2 apprentices while you trying to get this thing off the ground with this big mandate. Eh? So we're looking at 8 independent pilots already, and they dealing with those 4 ports. And then from Freeport Harbor, out of those 10, maybe we can use 5. They may be able to keep their stuff going, because now remember, the container ship is going to expand. They're going to get very busy. But we need this to happen now. So we need enough people. And how we can find 18 people? Again, we're looking at 8 from the independent pilots, 5 from Freeport Harbor Company, 3 from Buckeye, and then we get 2 independent pilots in Nassau. I'm included in that too. Eh? I have a pilot license. I ain't really been doing pilot work for reasons I don't wish to really get into right now, because we'll be talking for another 2 or 3 shows. But I am available, and my good friend Captain Brain, who always calling the show, he also holds a pilot license. He's also a pilot, and I'm sure if he thinks that the country needs it, can make himself available for the sake of making sure that this thing actually happens. We don't want this to be a mandate and we fall short in achieving that mandate. And the cruise ships laugh at us and say, we know they couldn't do it. And the people coming behind us, all those young people who can be pilots, don't have that opportunity to do this pilotage when we move off the scene. I mean, I over 69, so I won't go. Right? So this is what this is all about. This is about securing this opportunity for the future. For now too, because we can make some money out of it. I ain't trying to make much money. I think I'm gonna make plenty of money. I ain't trying to make no bunch of money. If you don't need me, I'm happy not to be involved. But of course, if you need me because you really short, then of course I will be available to you, right? So we talking about 18 pilots, and we can see that's 18. And that's not just 18. That's provided nobody gets sick and nobody go on vacation. So we are running a very tight rope when it comes to having enough pilots to take care of this big mandate. So we got to now make sure that we got apprentices and be training them up right away. And this thing has to work. What that term is they use, what Obama used when the car companies them was going out of business because of inflation. This is too big to fail. We must make this work. But all the resources we get in this country, we got to make this work. The minister, the port controller, the Port Authority Board, really, after all what you did, if it don't work, then the country fails. You didn't fail, but the country will fail. And I know you're into all that for the country to fail. So we got to make this happen. Then we need, each area we need a pilot boat, eh? So you need, how much areas we say we got? 9 stations. So you need 9 pilot boats plus 1 or 2 standing by. Because if something go wrong with one of them, you ain't need no reason why you can't go to the people's ship to bring in the ship or to take the ship out and pick up the pilot. So you need 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 pilot boats. And 9 of them with 2 crew members each. So, excuse me, that will be a total of some 36 persons to make this thing work, including the pilot boat coxswain, the pilot boat crew, to make this thing work. And that's on a 2 weekly rotation. Then you got to have provisions for fuel for the pilot boat, and of course maintenance of the pilot boat and docking of the pilot boat. All these things have to be considered and come together and fit into a puzzle, and if one piece is missing, then it wouldn't happen. So we are walking a very tight line, and it's really up to the government entities, the port controller and the Minister of Transport, to ensure that those involved even ain't allowed to mess this up. Because the minister will be giving license for these entities to operate as pilots. And by giving that license, the minister could always revoke that license. The minister could always also suspend that license. So we don't want no foolishness going on here. We need people to be responsible, professional, and everything else that come in that package. Because a lot of those cruise ships are looking and hoping that we fail. You know how much money they can keep in their coffers if we fail? That's why this is so important. We have to get this right. So they need housing accommodations with meals for those who got to go and do that 2-week rotation. You can't go there and ain't got no place to sleep. You ain't got nothing to eat. No, all this got to be arranged before the 1st of September. So we ain't got that much time. And so you have 24-hour availability, right? For only 2 to 4 more. Because if you are at Castaway Key, for example, Disney only can hold 1 ship there at a time because they only get 1 dock. So you get 1 ship to move in the morning to bring in, and when evening comes, you take it back out. And that's all you do for 2 weeks. So, ain't that boring? Because you away from your family, but you only got to do 2 moves a day. Well, of course, you can get plenty of rest and all the rest of that. But it's kind of boring. But for us to make this happen, we got to do it. Well, all of this be done in accordance with the Port Authority. Yeah. You see, we got laws governing this pilotage thing. And we have adequate laws. So while some people may say, oh, law talk about it, yes, the law is there to cover just about everything we need to discuss about making this happen and doing it properly and fairly. Excuse me. Well, I can talk plenty tonight, so I can be coughing here and there, right? My apology. So, remember now, only Nassau independent pilots and Freeport independent pilots currently holds the appropriate pilot license for these new ventures. Because Freeport have a company, they have a license from the port director that is limited to the Deepwater Harbor and Freeport only. They can't use that nowhere else. But they need to be a part of this puzzle for this to work. So the minister, for this to be legal, will have to issue pilot licenses to each one of those pilots who would be a part or be involved in this initiative of getting these cruise ships in these private ports or private islands, as we refer to them. So now, they would all have to be issued a license that is good for the rest of Bahamas, because there's only two entities in this whole country that can issue pilot license. That's the director of Freeport, port director, and the minister of transport. And all of this is in law. And the port director could only issue licenses for the Deepwater Harbor and Freeport. So we got the crew, the 6 pilots piloting ships at Barco or Buckeye Bahamas Hub right now as we speak, and they don't even have a license. And I asking you, the only license they could possibly have is from the Minister of Transport, and they do not have a license from the Minister of Transport. Barco cannot give them a license. The port director cannot give them a license because their jetties outside the port. Now you can give them a license for that inner buoy, that one buoy they have on the inside. But they have no way of getting a license other than from the minister based on our laws. So I could tell you, they are operating without licenses. The entities at South Riding Point are operating without a pilot license. Because if the minister ain't give it to them, they can't get it. And I know they ain't get it from the minister. I kind of know all the people who have licenses by way of the port department and the minister. So, if you think I'm wrong, please call and let me know they have a license that I don't know about. It got to be from the minister, and I don't think that's the case. And all of them would know this. They know they ain't got no license, because Buckeye can't give them no license. The port director can't give them no license, so they ain't get none. But we know that they can pilot ships. They were doing it all along. And most of the pilots in this country today started out at Barco. The senior pilots started out at Barco. So we know that these people know what they're doing. They were pilots, they can pilot those tankers. So of course, just like how the minister have to give licenses to those that belong to Freeport Harbor, the minister will have to give license now to those at Barco, because you want them to be part of this puzzle. Ain't no way this puzzle can work without at least 3 of them at a time. So here it is now. They will all have licenses. And as we say, because they're already doing the work, they'll be grandfathered in. Because the Act provides that you be part of the apprentice voice. The Act don't have no provision for you to get a license without being a pilot apprentice. But under these circumstances, we get grandfathered. These people are pilots, they're no pilot apprentice. And that's just the way it is. Anybody have a different view on that? Feel free to call 326-8255. Y'all know the number. 326-8255. Call me and say, Captain Bailey, ain't go like that. Based on what I understand, because I can tell I got the book right in front of me, you better come with the book, buddy. You come and tell me what the book say. Don't come and tell me what you think. Excuse me. Each pilot is a franchise. See, when you get a pilot license from the minister, that pilot license, based on the Port Authority Act tell you that you are this license holder, you are to get your own vessel and your vessel crew, and you go and you pilot ships. And according to the act, the first pilot to reach that ship gets the job, and they put up his pilot flag. And the other one or two, or whoever's trying to reach the first, they gotta go back in. Because they ain't get a job, no doubt the pilot beat them out. And so what they did, over the years they realized, man, this ain't making no sense. See, whoever get the fastest boat getting all the jobs. You had some pilots who used to camp out from the night before, just to try and get one job. So we need to unite. And when we unite, we will call that a pilot association. And all pilots will own this association. And since each one of us got a boat, we'll all own all the boats of this association. So the boats will now belong to the association. The association will maintain them. We will use them based on which boat we think we want to send it out to. And we will rotate. We will say this pilot will deal with that ship. That one will deal with that ship. And so we will all share equally when it's time for payout. Once we done pay our bills. And this is what a pilot association is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be what it is today in Nassau. And I'm hearing that it's not supposed to be what it is in the Bimini chain. Well, I'm hearing this. I don't believe it because I talk with people direct and they tell me they're like that. Then some people tell me, oh yes, it's like that, and all the rest of that, right? So we got to make sure, Mr. Port Controller, we have to make sure, Mrs. Minister, that this new regime doesn't have a group of vultures who want to put everything aside so that they could be making more money than other entities that carry the same exact license. If your license and my license is the same exact weight, why should you make a dime more than me if we are associating and putting our franchises together? No, we need to be one. And when that share is made, we need to get equal share, not only from the pilot, but from the pilot boats, because that's my franchise. Each one are supposed to have our own franchise, eh? Because if you don't do it like that, you know it's going to happen down the road. I may decide to say, but I can't be part of this because them said they got their little click going on and then I can't get in that, so I form my own thing. And then we'll have all this dissension and separations, all because you got some greedy people who don't want to be fair. 326-825. I want one of them greedy people to call me now. Please, call me, because I know some of y'all are. Now, all pilot license from the minister are deemed equal. Each pilot is a franchise, or they can unify to form equal opportunity association. Don't tell me you got a pilot association, but so and so own it and da 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 da. No, pilot association is not a company. That's an association. And if it could be a company, it could be a company that belongs to all pilots, because all of y'all own the same license. You don't have a situation where they say, well, we got like in the cabinet where they say this one is what, the chief among equals or something like that. Or I got a caller. I hope that's one of these greedy fellas. Caller, welcome to Maritime Matters. Hello.
Hello, Captain Ben. This is Captain Ben. How are you, sir?
You're not greedy, so I'm glad it's you.
I'm happy that I don't fit in that category.
Yeah, we wouldn't put you in that category because, boy, we got some greedy people out there. I'm in top shape and getting better, man. I'm just getting started up in here. What's happening?
Yeah, man. Very interesting topic. But I have some points I'd like to make. First and foremost, I'm not sure. I know that we collectively have been trying to fix this issue for years, and I'm grateful, and I just want to send kudos to the government and the people who would have brokered the deal. you know, for the
No. You can't get away with that now. You got to call some names. You know the key people who make this up. Who made this happen?
But you know, I would just, you know, I really and truly just happy that it has happened. However, you know, I don't think this is my opinion. I don't think that. I think that we have to organize better than we are where we are now. You would have quite eloquently described how many pilots you need and why you think you need that, right? But we need to go we need to go beyond this, right? We have to figure out how we're gonna make this operation viable and how we're gonna do it sensibly and so that we can sustain it. And what I mean by that is simply, you know, maybe we have to phase in certain groupings at a time and trying to, instead of, if we can't get the I'm sure we won't be able to get the qualified numbers by the 1st of September, but we need to be able to figure out and sit down in the room until we get it hammered out, how are we going to do this? And that's one of the most important things, because this kind of, in my opinion, the way it wasn't it didn't happen progressively. It just happened, and so now we find ourselves in a state where we're scrambling to ensure that we could fulfill the mandate.
You remember those days? You remember those days, Herbie, when we used to be arranging for national ISPS exercises?
Oh, indeed.
And you had meeting after meeting with heads of the police force, head of the hospital, head of this entity, all the port facilities. You remember, you had to coordinate this thing. This is where we are now with this big shift. And the port controller should be calling weekly meetings with all those entities, those pieces that form this puzzle. And if that don't happen, we doomed for failure.
Exactly, and so therein lies my point. Really and truly, we need to make sure that we have our act together, and we seem to have planned sufficiently for this, because it appears as though we, like, I am sure that we won't be ready for the first, in terms of what we really need to do. Because the real facts of the matter is the stakeholders in this whole exercise is not only the individual independent pilots, is also the government of the Bahamas, the cruise lines. Everybody has a stake in it, and then there's also things like, if you what that training program for the new pilots going to look like. While I would have been training for 15 plus years, and you would have probably been training for the same or more. To get the young captain up to scratch in order to be able to successfully fill this, going to take some creativity. We may even have to engage the services of the Star Center in Fort Lauderdale and other places to try to bring them up to snuff quickly and the like. So this is something that's not so. It's not something that you could just do. And so you have to plan this. There have to be a phased approach and how we actually do this. So we have a monumental task, a real mountain to climb with respect to making this happen sensibly. And maybe we may have to stagger the coming on stream of the various ports, because there's all the logistics about the logistics involved in this thing here. I don't know who said the date, who chose 1st September or whatever was thrust upon us or whatever, but the logistics alone going to take time for us to put in place. So we have a lot of work to do, and I think we have to start immediately having meetings and consultation to ensure that we don't miss nothing, and because like you said earlier, the ship's not going to wait. You have an obligation to make sure that you have pilots there to facilitate the safe inbound transit and outbound transit of these vessels, and you can't take no shortcut.
But Captain Brain,
you just can't shortcut it.
Let me just say to you, you are smack on point. But I want to remind you of one or two things that is working or that will work in the favor of the Bahamas. The main thing that will work in the favor of the Bahamas is that these captains were taking their ships for years, so they know the maneuvers. They're not going to let a pilot come on board and cause their ship to run aground or hit the dock.
Oh, of course not.
Right? So we realize that we're not going there to show them how to bring their ship to this dock. We go in there basically to watch them carry their ship, and eventually we would be just as versed as they are, because we've watched them maneuvering up. And the next saving grace is these maneuvers are not difficult. They're not like taking a ship into Freeport Harbor or taking a ship into Nassau Harbor, because we would have been finished. We would not have been able to do this.
Yeah. So you're absolutely correct. And like I said, most of those facilities are simply just a jetty out in the middle, jutting out.
Yeah, they're basically in open waters. You don't have to go around, no danger.
Yeah, and
straight shot.
The companies will have predetermined maneuvers, how they approach those facilities based on the prevailing circumstances and conditions and weather and the like. And
yeah, they've been doing it year round for decades. These people know how to get their ship to that dock. You ain't going to tell them how to do that, you know.
Right, but that's the easy part. The hard part, really and truly, is for us to set this up properly.
First, to galvanize.
You're talking about pilot boats aren't cheap. That's first and foremost, right? They aren't cheap at all, and safety first. So you can't just put a pilot on a Boston rail and say, okay, go to the ship. Oh, we got plenty of boats, and I'll just go to the ship. It doesn't work like that. And the logistics about living accommodation, of flying, and then you think about weather conditions on certain days, and it's a whole lot to consider. We need to sit down in a room, and we need to check that. We need to work on all the logistical support services that are required in order to make this thing work. And everybody has, like I said, has a stake in it, inclusive of the government. And that may mean that we may have to call upon the government to assist in some way, shape, or form, whether it's assisting with pilot boat support or whatever. But they have to be integrally involved in this process, because at the end of the day, we need to be sensible about this thing, and we have to make sure that once we say, well, we are ready, we don't look like a bunch of goons because we don't have our act together.
But let me tell you what the government has to drive this. You see, Burn Wright, Senior Commander Burn Wright, he is in that position to galvanize and call everybody to the table to make sure this puzzle fit together.
Yeah.
You and I can't do that. The Barco pilots can't do that. The Freeport Harbor pilots can't do it. No, because we can't summon each other, but he could summon everybody.
Yeah.
And to make this happen, and to make this work, even if we do Zoom meetings, right? And the saving grace, like I said, you brought up the thing about having enough pilot boats and the weather condition. The good thing, let me tell you, I've been to all of these private islands, every single one, a couple times, right? I used to go to inspect their vessels when I was the deputy port controller. I used to go and do some ISPS stuff at some of them. And I can tell you that if you look at Cocoa Key and Stirrup Key and Half Moon Key, and these keys that you would need, they were having ships come year round because they were doing tendering service. Most their ships used to go on anchor. So they have the format where they have a few boats internally that they were using to do tendering. They may not have as much. They used to have 3 and 4 and 5. Now they may only have 1 or 2. But those boats with the negotiations with the cruise ships, those boats would probably be more ideal than trying to get a pilot boat out there.
Yeah. Well, in those cases, then the like Half Moon Key and those type of keys, I don't think they do. They have a jetty now, or are they still?
No, they have the big pier for the cruise ship, but they have lagoon. Their boats will be kept inside. They have like canals.
Yeah.
So those boats are well protected, and the docks are still there. They can't go nowhere. Right. So I'm saying that with with the port controller already talking with these entities, these pilots and the cruise ships. The cruise ships, it will be a cost to them for pilot boat to come there. And of course, they've got to stay in the lagoon. And the crew and everything and utilizing a pilot boat. It will cost them more than if they say, hey, look here, we have boats that we were using all along. We still have them here. Y'all might as well utilize these and don't charge us initially until y'all could probably get some more fitting pilot boats if you want. But these were the boats that were coming to our ships all the time. And I'm just saying these are things that we got to look at to soften the blow as far as the equipment you would need for September 1st.
Yeah. And so the point you make the point that there may be some things that some logistical support that we may be able to negotiate access to help to make this thing happen and happen more effectively.
That's why we need these meetings. Right? We need these meetings to start this same week. They
need to start yesterday or last week. Because at the end of the day, in order for this to happen and for us not to have egg on our face, we need to make sure we get it right, and we need to get it right the first time, because there's safety and of a cruise ship with that amount of souls on board and the operation in general. It have to be something that you have to give priority to.
Well, you have to give full priority to it. So come tomorrow. You can go and visit your student, your past student, and cause this to happen immediately, if not before, eh?
Indeed. Well, I won't wait till tomorrow. After the show, I will endeavor to see what I can do in terms of
causing some meetings to happen.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a big step toward us being successful in making this thing happen.
For sure.
Yeah, and I don't want nobody to think I'm trying to move in and take over, because I don't even care to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I looking to retire soon enough, right? If you need me, I'm here.
Yeah, it's all about for right now, because the significance of this thing you mentioned is too big to fail. Because the significance of this, we all have to put in maximum effort in ensuring that it doesn't fail. We all have to assist in some of the training initiatives. We all have to assist in making sure it works. And because at the end of the day, we have the future pilots
to protect. We got to protect the future
so that they can last a long time.
You couldn't ask. I got another call on the line, Cap. So
right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I will advise further.
Yeah, and please call back if you have an itch too, because we still got some stuff to cover. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thank you.
Calling you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing this evening, Cap?
I am in top shape and getting better, my friend. How are you, man?
I am in top shape myself.
What new you got for me today? I know you got something new for me for that Ragged Island move.
No, ain't nothing new. Just going to let you know that the good representative,
yes,
has not even acknowledged receipt of the letter as yet.
Yeah.
And his goons came to Nassau that same week after I called you, so I don't know what they're cooking up.
Okay, so the administrator, I think that's what you say, was spearheading it from that end, from Ragged Island end. Is the administrator able to reach the minister?
Well, I don't know about the administrator. I don't know if the administrator has tried, but I know the chief consular.
Chief consular wasn't able to reach.
No, the chief consular. He told the chief consular that night when we had the meeting here that he was prepared to meet with him the next day.
Yeah, no, I mean,
because he wasn't even in Nassau and he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah, but I mean, since he came back from Canada or wherever he was, do you know if the chief consul was able to reach him, or did he try to reach him since?
The chief consul didn't try to reach him, but I am just off the phone with the chief consular before I called you.
Okay.
To verify that he did not get not even an acknowledgement of receipt of the letter.
Well, that's a very bad look, and I'm happy to hear that. Now we know where we are, but try and encourage the chief consular to make another attempt. Because if he's in town and he answers his phone, we may get a little more progress than just waiting on him to get back to us.
Yeah. Okay, I just thought to, enlighten you.
Yeah, man, keep us abreast. I want to know.
These representatives are, from February of this year, a chief consular has been in place and has not laid eyes on the representative up to this point.
Yeah, but we only want to talk to him on the phone. So let's see if between now and next week's show, because I want you to call every show, now and next week's show, the chief consular was able to make contact, or he tried to call twice and he didn't. The return the call was turned down. That's what I need to know. I need to know that he tried and was unsuccessful, or he tried and he got through.
Gotcha, buddy.
Yeah, man. But thanks so much for calling. You see, we got a hot topic again on I know if you.
I tuned in late, but
yeah.
I did not want to interrupt, but I know your time is running.
No, man, that's fine. That's fine. I want to hear from you every week.
So that the public would know just how good the representative is to Ragged Island. He don't even call Ragged Island when he is speaking about Exuma.
Well, I just want to know next week something changed or it got worse. But at least we can make an effort to call him, eh?
Most definitely. Okay, my brother.
Thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself, man.
Thank you.
Roger. Yeah, that's my good friend from down in Ragged Island about this monument that's going to be put down there in memory of the Defense Force landing after the HMBS Flamingo was not sunk. I wouldn't even call it sunk. Was bombed. And we lost 4 lives. So I told them, please keep us abreast, because we want to make sure these things happen the way they really should happen. Make sure these people who gone through that at least get proper homage for what they went through. So ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about pilots. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I am Captain Glenn Payne. Boy, I look like I got to take a quick break here, but I'm going to finish with a day before I take this break, right? We're talking about the seismic shift. We're talking about the paradigm shift. We're talking about the biggest thing to ever happen in this country when it comes to piloting. And nothing bigger than this ever happened. And we now have that opportunity to take charge of our entire country when it comes to cruise ships making entry and exits from our ports. We have gotten the government to cause the cruise ships to agree to now take on pilots. So we got to galvanize all the pilots that are qualified and can have a pilot's license from the minister to get together as one, unify in a peaceful way, in a healthy way, and in a way that nobody gets an advantage over the other. You call it fairness. Let's have fairness. Let's not have greed. Because, they say when the black crabs get together, they could never wig their way out, because one keeps stepping on the next one and all the rest of that. But you see the white crab, they wake as a team, and then they form a ladder, and one go out, then the next one go out, and then like that. Then the last one reach down and help that one up. So let's be like the white people when it comes to this mandate for pilotage on the 1st of September. Let's be fair. Let's have respect for each other. And let's make this happen, because everybody wins. You know the saying goes, I have a good friend named James Wallace. He used to be a Defense Force officer, and James Wallace, he's a very wise, I always look up to James, James used to tell me, say, my brother, I'll tell you one thing. Rising tide floats all vessels. I mean, that's pretty simple and straightforward. Eh? If the tide coming up, every vessel can rise with the tide. But if you want to try jack your boat up and leave the rest down there, you going up with the tide. The rest ain't really getting. So let's do something to cause the tide to rise. And right now, the tide is about to rise. So all of our vessels should float equally. So let's cut out the greed. Know some of y'all got it in your mind. Please take it out. Get rid of the devil. And let's do this thing fairly. So we talk about ports like Miami, the Port of Miami, Port Everglades, Port Canaveral, Tampa Bay Port. All of them have only one pilot association, and any of those four have 3 or 4 times the amount of ships that we have in the entire country when it comes to commerce. So if they could do all of those ships with only one association, why we need more than one? We need more than one because people won't be greedy. We need more than one because people don't want to work together. Because they want to have control. They don't want to see everybody as equal that has that license from the minister. And we need to cut that out. And with this new seismic shift and this new system that has to be implemented, we don't need greed to be rising its head all over the place. 326-8255. You don't believe me? Give me a call. We got some greed out there that want to pop their ugly heads all over the place. You know, I ain't gonna call no name. Oh, thought that was a caller. Guess not. So, it is a call. Maritime Matters, hello.
Hi, good evening, Captain Man.
Good evening, my dear. Oh, my goodness. How are you, darling?
You have a hot and juicy subject, as you say.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you're on my side this time.
Of course not. I have a comment to make about what you said. First of all, and for those who may not have seen it, Hutchison is selling a pilot boat that they have in Grand Bahamas in the newspaper. It's for sale. I think it was Monday's paper.
Hutchison have pilot boats?
Needing one urgently.
What do you mean by Hutchison? You talking about the Freeport Harbor Company?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's posted in the newspaper on Monday for sale.
So you want me to go buy that?
No.
Oh, okay.
So what? Another comment that I wanted to make about their licenses, Freeport Harbor pilot licenses, they actually have a mooring outside of Freeport Harbor down by the Tino Beach area.
Who has the mooring?
Freeport Harbor pilot.
Okay, for cruise ships?
But I don't know. It's a mooring. I don't know what they moor there. I would assume. They remember the big red boat?
Yeah, but the big red boats used to go there, but the big red boats didn't have to take pilots.
Okay, and that's another thing is that some of the pilots, some of the requirements for some of the vessels are exempt. But back to the
yeah, but that has been changed come September 1st.
Yeah. So do you see the details of this change?
Yeah, I saw the letter to the effect that went out to all cruise ships.
So how can they change? They can't really change Freeport Harbor's requirements.
No. They are telling them Freeport Harbor comes under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. The government right now, well, you hardly know cruise ships go there, but when cruise ships go there, they go within the Deepwater Harbor. So the Hawksbill Creek Agreement takes care of that. Anything outside of Hawksbill Creek Agreement comes under the Ministry of Transport and the Port Department.
What I'm informing you is even on their website, they indicated that they have, they can anchor vessels up in that Tino Beach area.
Well, they may have it on their website, but that don't mean that they're doing it legally. That mean if they're breaking the law, that got to change. See, it's a lot of things were happening that shouldn't be happening, and this one will start the domino effect so that the rest could crumble.
Yeah, but I think that there should have been some type of meeting of minds.
Well, we need that to happen immediately, and that's what Captain Bain and I appreciate.
Grand Bahama and the pilots, because the pilots in Grand Bahama also do several other keys It's not just Bimini.
No, that's not so. I can tell you what all they do. They do Bimini and they used to do Ocean Key. But Ocean Key stopped them from doing it because they had the option to stop them. They didn't want to pay the money. Why you can pay money if you don't have to pay money? So now Ocean Key will have to re-engage them. That's what I said earlier. It's not optional anymore.
Well, again, like I say, I don't know the way what you're reading, but back to the laws, right? When we talk about these pilots and their appointments, right? It says that 2 years of apprenticeship, and then they pass, the physical and all of that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It says 3 years. I looking at it. It says 3 years.
Which version is that you're reading?
It's Section 53 of the Port Authorities Act. A pilot may have indentured to him not more than 2 apprentices who must be duly instructed by him in every particular connect with his duty. An official notification shall be made to the minister of the commencement of any and each of such indentures. An apprentice should be examined once every year by the Port Authority of the port area in which he is apprenticed, touching his qualifications, and after 3 years continuous service as an apprentice shall, being qualified as required by this act and having obtained a certificate to that effect from the said Port Authority, after due examination in accordance with the provisions of this act, be entitled to a preference for appointment as a pilot. It says 3 years. And I had to live this, so I wasn't guessing. I don't know why you challenged me on things which I had to live.
I'm not challenging you. I'm just.
But you told me it was 2 years, and I was telling you no, you were wrong, and you telling me no, it's 2. Now, when you tell me where you find 2 years.
They have. I don't know if they have.
You tell me where you find the 2 years, and then I'll yield to you.
53, right?
That's Section 53. That's what I read just now.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what I read just now.
Okay, so but anyway, if it's 3 years, it's still 3 years, right? But what I'm saying is, how many apprentices do we actually have? You said we have 9 pilots here and 5 pilots there.
No, we have. I didn't count apprentices because I don't think we should put apprentices on those ships until we sure they are suitably qualified as pilots. They have to get a pilot license from either the minister or the port director in Freeport. They're the only 2 entities in the country that could issue license for pilot.
Right, but do they have apprentices?
Yes, they do.
How many apprentices are there?
They have apprentices.
They don't have an emergency.
They have apprentices in the Freeport Harbor system. They have 3 apprentices. They have apprentices in the independent pilot system. I think they have two or three apprentices. So yeah, there are apprentices, but we need more. But now you got to remember, apprentices needs to be qualified before they could even be considered or deemed an apprentice. That's another story we could talk about because that's also in the act. But yeah, we can make sure it happen. Yeah, we got this one covered, All we got to do is make sure nobody get greedy.
You can't just jump up in 6 weeks and say everybody have to take every cruise ship have to take a pilot.
Yes, you can. You can do it. You can do it, especially if you're going to give them 6 weeks.
Also need to undergo the renewal annually or every 2 years?
Annually. Pilot license is renewed if you get your license updated every year.
They need medical. They need to get different things like that in order to be qualified per se.
No. If you're a pilot, you're a pilot. You're a professional who knows how to maneuver ship. Now, if you go in a new area, well, of course, you got to learn the area like everybody else. But I'm saying to you, these ships have been doing these maneuvers now for decades. They know exactly what they need to do.
The apprentice need to be qualified, but then you hanging on to the fact that the captain is going to assist, right?
No, the pilot is going there. As a pilot normally does. Many cases.
It's all new to everyone if they never took it before, right?
It's all new to everyone, but if you're an experienced pilot, you will understand a lot of things that the apprentice would not understand because the apprentice would not have the kind of experience you have. It's like everything else. If you have an electrician who have experience and then you have one who just get a license and he don't have the experience, you're talking 2 different things.
So my last comment is, when we talk about mandatory, that mandatory requirement comes from the act, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it also is mandatory that they form a port authority and designate a port area.
It doesn't say that is mandatory. In the absence of those port,
and put it on the problem, because the real problem is that these port areas haven't been significantly outlined and detailed, and then we don't have port authorities, local port authorities on each one of these islands that these ships would be attached to. So who's going to regulate when it comes to now, when the pilot has a problem, when there's a complaint, they still have to come back to Nassau, to the minister, or according to the act, they're supposed to be a local port authority that would adjudicate any issues that the ship would have.
According to the act, they're supposed to be local port authorities, right? And from time immemorial, where there's no local port authority, the New Providence Port Authority Act, in that regard, for ports and ships that have to be in those areas. So we need to get the local port authorities up and going. And I agree with you. Just like where we're supposed to have local government and central government supposed to divest certain areas, they didn't give them up to the stage where they need to be, so that central government will no longer have to be involved. So it's going to be something that, yes, you are absolutely correct, we should be working toward. But no, they don't have. But that don't mean the ships don't carry pilots.
The cruise ship, listen, you have to take a pilot, but you don't give them any recourse. The recourse would have been the local or the areas, the port areas that they in should have the port authority.
No, the recourse is the minister issues the license. No port authority issues no license.
Nassau, right?
No port authority issues no license.
No, what I'm
And the act will tell you, and let me read it from the act so you can understand. The minister may cancel the appointment of any pilot or suspend him for any limited period of for misconduct, dereliction of duty. The minister does this. So no port authority really matters once person is a pilot. That's what the act says. So the minister is still the one who deals with licensed pilots as far as discipline, as far as everything else. So you don't need that port authority once that person is given a license. The port authority is supposed to prepare that person to get a license. Yeah. And then moving forward, we will want to put that in place for the pilot's apprentices. Right? But as it stands now, we don't have the luxury to do that. We have pilots that we need to just license so that they could continue to be pilots. They would have to be grandfathered in.
So we're going to give them the license and then put it in place?
No, we can give, but it will be put in place for pilot apprentices, not for pilots, because they would already be pilots.
Yeah, but they also pilots for a specific area, right?
No, they don't. The minister's going to give, they don't even have, most of them don't even have licenses. My license don't have no area on it.
Oh.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, so...
Yes, darling. That's why
license was issued under the Nassau Harbor...
No, it wasn't. I could show you my license. I'm going to send you a copy of my license so you can understand. It doesn't have... Oh, we got two lines. I got to answer to now. So, you want to hold and let me come back to you, or...
Bye.
Bye. Now, which one of these I must go to? I don't know this one. Maritime Matters, hello.
Hello?
Calling on Maritime Matters, hello.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Brenda. How are you, honey?
I have been on this line for a long time, but you need to limit your conversation with one person. I know you're...
I saw when you came on the line. That was not a long time.
Oh, my God. Ben.
Yes, darling.
Did you hear a discussion concerning the same conversation this morning on another talk show?
No, I didn't. I wish I did.
Okay, that's maybe the reason why she's asking you all these questions. Maybe she was a part of it.
She might have been a part of it, but you see, I live this thing. They don't know this thing like how I know it, because I live this thing.
But you need to check with the gentleman from Paradise Island and all those balls.
No, they were talking about charter yachts. No, I had them on my show before. I could teach them about that too.
But I need to see you in person to discuss something with you.
Yes, man. You got my number? Give me a call. You know my number.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, Sugar Pie.
Okay.
Oh, our time is running low. So let me just try to run through what we've been saying all along, because I think we kind of covered everything, you know. One thing I'd like to express is I wanted to ask, what is a pilot? People ask, what you mean a marine pilot? What they do? They're the experts. They go on board the cruise ship or any ship, cargo ship, tankers, container ships, bulk carriers, any big ship that coming to do trade in the country, technically should be taking a local pilot to come take the ship to the dock. And then when it's time for the ship to leave, they come on the ship and take the ship from the dock back in the ocean, come back in the pilot boat. And you need to be a pilot, you need to have certain qualifications like everything else, right? You need to be aware of weather effects on ships, etc. We got two main harbors here, Freeport Harbor, Nassau Harbor, that takes a lot of ships. And I can tell you that it's not easy getting a ship into any one of them. And those captains of those cruise ships and those captains of those cargo ships they don't even want the headache of trying to take their ship into Nassau or Freeport Harbor. So these cruise ship captains been doing this thing with these private islands because they're straight shots. They wouldn't even want that job, especially when the weather get rough, to take a cruise ship from the ocean around those bottlenecks to get into our harbors. They wouldn't want that. But now they could take a chance on their private islands because they ain't got a bottleneck to go through. Eh? It's just straight shots. So that's what I was trying to explain about the pilots that are now going on these ships. It ain't like they gotta learn these harbor areas to like they would if they went into Nassau or Freeport. It's straight shots, right? So if they pilots already, it wouldn't be a big deal. So they need to know the weather, they need sailing experience, ship handling experience, they need to be able to liaison with the captain and his people, they need to understand how ships run, right? A pilot is the holder of a license, which is a franchise. When the minister gives him that license, he's supposed to get his pilot boat, get his crew, and he's supposed to be available for when ships need a pilot. But what has happened over a period of time is because you don't want to compete or race for ships. We had pilots associations where all the licensed pilots formed an association together and combined their franchises. And they should be equal owners, equal shares, etc., etc. But that's not the way it has been happening. That is the way it started. That's the way it was designed to happen. That's the way it should happen. That's the way it happens everywhere else in the world, like Miami, like Port of England, like Europe, like Australia. All over the world it happens like that. But not in this country because we got some niggly people, we got some greedy people, and we got some people who like to take advantage when they get a little edge instead of trying to do things right. And with that, I say no more. Ladies and gentlemen, without getting to our other topics, we have arrived at the end of our show, Maritime Matters, for tonight. With that, I say good night, Annie Mae. I say thank you very much for all of my callers for making those calls. You made the show, and I hope that my ranting and running on is going to help, because it helped to get us where we are, and I know it helped. So I wanted to help to get us where we need to be for September 1st. And so my producer for the night is, of course, Honorable Craig Gibson. Our sponsors for the night, Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. Then we got the pharmacies. We got the one in Freeport, that's known as Island Care Pharmacy. And then we got the two in Nassau that are known as One-on-One Pharmacy. When you see them, don't pass them street. Even if you gotta go buy a chocolate or something on me, right? Let's tell them that on me and pay your money. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening, my dear listeners, and I say to you, as always, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 tick. Out.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away.